So when reading to some policy papers, especially when taking into account the long-term goal that Melle just presented about the Netherlands, where it was sustaining the current situation, Tasmania has something completely different in mind in terms of water use, because as you can see here, there is a goal to increase the agricultural value generated by agriculture by 2050 to around 10 billion, whereas in 2016 it was around 1.48. So that has drastic implications for the value generated by agriculture. And therefore I defined the long-term goal for Tasmania to increase the agricultural value drastically. So from this increase to around 10 billion, there is a lot of questions that arise. So first of all, is this possible? So we have some figures that are presented by government agencies that provide some insights in how this would be possible. And therefore, also it's important to how do we get there. So for this, since my study is a lot about irrigation and water management, I was particularly interested in finding out what the role of irrigation is in this. And what do stakeholders think about this? What do stakeholders think are the most important parts on increasing the value to around 10 billion? Is this 10 billion by 2050 a realistic goal? That would be the end question. First, let's crunch some numbers. So the first figure that is important is to see that at the moment, or in 2016 at least, there was 1.48 billion generated. So that on average, this would conclude that Tasmania is making around $1,017 per hectare. That is, of course, with huge differences between different farms and different practices. But in general, the average needs to go up. So this needs to go up from around 1,017 to around 6,000, which is quite an increase. And part of my research is taking some lessons, or not particularly lessons, but providing some insights from how the Netherlands is producing, whereas you cannot compare these two countries in terms of production from climate to markets. They're completely different, but it should provide some insights. And as you can see, there is around $8,000 per hectare in the Netherlands, which is quite a lot. But one of the ways Tasmania, or the government at least, tries to increase the value is by investing a lot in irrigation. And from Australian Bureau of Statistics, there was around 300,000 megalitres of irrigation water applied. And surely we could increase that, but even when you double the amount of water that is available for irrigation, then still you would need to increase drastically about the value that you get from your water. So that provides a nice step into the actual research part that I'm going to do. So I'm going to do, in the next month, I'm going to do some interviews with stakeholders at very different levels. So this will be state level, industry level, but also at farm level, to find out during a creative backcasting interview on what pathways we could take to increase to 10 billion by 2050. And the backcasting relies heavily on, instead of using current trends and extrapolate them to the future. Try to imagine the goal, the end goal, and then think back of what steps we could take. So this is a creativity tool to find new, different insights. And so that leaves me with my note is it's an ambitious long-term goal, but I'm very curious to see what different stakeholders at different levels perceive as the steps forward. So this was it. Thanks.